no one ever really talks about not drinking or drinking, but why they're drinking.
It's just not about having something that mimics alcohol. It's about something that has complexity, that's sophisticated.
If you're not going to, I guess, replicate or have that similar experience, well, grab a soda water.
There's going to be a tipping point and it will come. And I think it's going to come sooner than a lot of people realize. Christina, I am so excited to have you here today. Look at my smile. Like it's genuinely just like so excited to have you. I'm so excited to introduce you to Christina Delay, co-founder of Altina and non-alcoholic wines. Their brand mission speaks so directly to me to create a new way for people to socialize without the booze. And, for me, I think just being able to kind of continue to live that big, full life where you can connect with your family and friends and socialize and still feel like you're part of the tribe without any of the negative effects of alcohol is, right up my street and very aligned to my mission as well. Their story is so inspiring. I honestly cannot wait for you to hear it. Hello, Christina. How are you doing today?
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I'm so excited to be here and speaking to you. And I love your passion for the space and what you're doing here. So, yeah, it's my pleasure.
I always love starting these podcasts with a personal question, really. And that's, do you currently drink alcohol? And if so, or if not, is there kind of a story there?
I currently don't drink any alcohol. There is definitely a story there. It's basically the story of Altina and how that became. More or less, it's a health story. So I used to really enjoy the social aspects of drinking and socializing. In my 20s, there was a lot of long lunches, a lot of boozy afternoons, a lot of fun revolving around the social aspect of drinking. After quite a few years, that really caught up with me, and I started to get health problems and was diagnosed with IBS and found that alcohol was the biggest trigger. So it was a pretty clear-cut choice for me. Either stop drinking or feel awful every time I did drink. There wasn't any sort of struggle for me to stop. It was really, I would get such bad symptoms that I just didn't want to physically drink anymore. And that kind of kicked off this whole discussion around alternatives, because wine was such a big part of my and my partner Alan's lives. We really sort of looked and went, well, we should still be able to keep doing all of those things that we really enjoy doing. Surely it can't be that hard to make a non-alcoholic alternative. And that kind of led us here. Luckily, we were so naive, I always say.
Oh, no, not naive. I think dreamers almost. The word just as a dreamer, I think that kind of springs to mind. My story was very similar. I just felt so unwell every time. The less I drank, the more unwell I felt. And I'd had gut health issues my whole adult life. And, I'd eliminated everything from gluten to dairy to sugar and, just never wanted to believe alcohol might have been one of, the major contributing factor. Then, the less I drank, the more it became very obvious that that alcohol was not doing me any favors. And the physical health and the mental health, very similar to you and Alan. Me and my husband, we bonded over wine. We enjoyed wine. We spent our honeymoon in South Africa in the vineyards, and as we've just recently come back from Margaret River, sitting in kind of a beautiful vineyard, enjoying a beautiful glass of wine and just relaxing, some of my favorite moments of adult life. And I'd never wanted to give that up. I didn't want to give up the moment. I wanted to give up the booze and the feeling rubbish, but not those really special moments that you have.
Yeah, that's right. Completely relate to that. And you mentioned that it was sort of the last thing you wanted to sort of try and let go to see if that would be what works and what helps you. And I remember feeling the same. Like I remember, cutting out all the other things on the list before it came to the booze, and exactly the same reason. It was, you don't really want to let go of the connection that comes over the occasions where you're drinking. But I guess the thing we now know in looking back and with hindsight is that you can actually get better connections without needing to have the alcohol. I used to think it was a great social lubricant and, people sort of opened up a bit more and you could have that more enjoyable time. But since stopping drinking, I've really learned the opposite is true. And you're able to have such wonderful and enjoyable times without needing to have the alcohol. So I think it's a really interesting and important discussion that there is that assumption that you have to be drinking to be enjoying things.
Exactly. And it took some practice for me. And
Mm.
I know that's a bit of a strange word to use, that you kind of have to practice. So, going to these social occasions, going and sitting in a beer garden, going to a winery, going to, my sister's bachelorette party, but for every time that you go out and you actually have a really good time, it just reinforces it, and you almost surprises you. You were like, oh, I had a really nice time today and I didn't drink. Oh, this can be done. I can do this. I can go out and have fun without drinking. Take some practice, but once you do it, you're like, okay, I've got
Yeah.
this.
And I find the rest of life more generally, I feel like I'm getting a sense of, it's more full and more rich because you're not wasting days feeling a bit average. Yeah, I think to me, it went together hand in hand with more of a mindfulness journey and really working on, my own mental health and going through and looking at what I want to get out of life. So I think it's all kind of intertwined and has ended up sort of this journey goes to a place for me where I'm much more present and enjoying life and appreciating all of the other things.
I am right there with you. Absolutely right there with you on that as well. So you stopped drinking and wanted to kind of maintain that beautiful social life and those moments and that connection. And so you realized there wasn't many alternatives. So what happened there?
It was an interesting time. Alan and I were sort of a little bit restless in our careers, and we both really wanted to do something that would make an impact on the community, that could make change in a more meaningful way than just, I guess, the 9 to 5 grind, or the 9 to 9 grind at that point. Um, and we sort of had been exploring all these different ideas, but we came to this point where we both decided to stop drinking, and it just it all just sort of fell into place. We started to meet people who were in the social enterprise space. We started to meet people who were all sort of working on that impact and making change in bigger in culture more broadly. And we thought to ourselves, like, this is what we can do. Like, we started to get so passionate about being able to share the experience and speak to people about our own experience, and I guess really found that people could connect with our stories on a really different level to what we'd ever had before, because no one ever really talks about not drinking or drinking, but why they're drinking. And so we started to have all these conversations, and then yeah, we basically put our ideas together and signed up for a social enterprise accelerator program, which really helped us to crystallize in our minds the impact we wanted to have and the way we could set up a business to, I guess, enshrine that in every part of the business. So it really wasn't necessarily from a product focus that we came on. We came from the experience. We wanted to replicate the experience that we loved about drinking a great wine and having a great social experience. And we also wanted to really make some change in the drinking culture. So I always think, when I look back now, that it's kind of lucky that we took that approach rather than sort of going straight into, coming up with a product and really focusing on that product first up. And I think the benefit of taking this other approach was we were able to really build a community and really engage with people about what they would like to see and how we could build something that people would really love. So building hand in hand with the people that we were going to be selling our drinks to eventually.
I think it's really, really fascinating. Like, this is the first podcast and first interview that I've done where it wasn't come at product first. It wasn't identifying like a gap in the market from a product. It was more kind of identifying a need and a want to help the consumers or to help people through this. You've almost kind of identified, please correct me if I'm wrong, identified a problem first, you know, that kind of people still wanted to have that connection without the alcohol, and then, you know, looked at possible solutions. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's kind of the approach we've taken ever since, even in our approach to product development now. So it's really how can we stay true to those core values that we have around making sure we are bringing people an amazing experience and we are helping to have that positive impact. And so, yeah, we basically went down this road and didn't actually have a product until about 8 or 9 months down the track. And actually, we ran a crowdfunding campaign and didn't have a product while we ran that campaign. We actually didn't even have a prototype of a product or really know exactly what the product would be. But to see sort of the excitement from people when we described a possible vision of a future where we have these beautiful alternatives to wine was just such great validation of the idea.
That is just amazing. And when you started to look at, okay, possible solutions, you know, a drink or product was only one. What were the other things that kind of were brainstormed or coming out of that?
Lots of different ways you could go when you talk about like advocacy, or at the time there weren't really many people sort of sharing their stories and building community around stories and that sort of thing. So more sort of storytelling and media. And I think at the end of the day though, because we sort of approached it from our own personal need, having a product was really important. It just wasn't necessarily like we are winemakers and we will make a non-alcoholic wine. It was we know we need a product. We know we want something in our glass, but we don't necessarily, we're not wedded to what that product in the glass is. And so at the time, I think like Seedlip had just been launched. We couldn't even get it in Australia. We just sort of seen a news clipping somewhere. There weren't really any methods or examples of what sort of things people might even imagine. So we'd talk to people and they'd say, oh, will we still get a buzz? Will it still taste the same? Will it be like all of these different aspects of the drinking and the socializing occasions that people consider to be important? And so it was sort of taking all those ideas that people thought, like this is a really important aspect of the socializing and the connection, and then figuring out from a product perspective and later on filtering down into a technical and science perspective how we could actually go about achieving that. And of course, nobody had really ever done it before. So I started on this journey of setting up a little lab in my kitchen, tinkering around and experimenting with different methodologies, looking at how what breweries do, what wineries do, how distillers make their products, and really trying to figure out how we could incorporate that with things that make the occasion special. Really strongly felt that showcasing botanical ingredients would be really important. And I guess a step further than just botanical ingredients, it was the beautiful native Australian botanical ingredients that are so incredible and have so many health benefits, but that most people don't actually know anything about at all. I guess falling in love with the problem and figuring out what people want, and going on a bit of a winding road to try to create something that met as many of those boxes as possible.
Yeah. I love that you just said falling in love with the problem. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before, and I relate to that so much. And I love it. I think that's beautiful, and what an incredible problem to solve as well. Because you've got a background in, I'm going to get this wrong, biochemistry, is it?
Yeah, so biotechnology and plant biology, plant science. Yeah, so
Tell me a little bit more about what does that mean?
as some of my colleagues at the time joked, I have the perfect background for something out of Breaking Bad. I could have set up, a little meth lab in the kitchen, but instead I set up a little lab that did look quite like a meth lab. But I set that up to try to find a healthier alternative to alcohol. So basically, I studied a lot of chemistry in my undergraduate degree, but I was really, really interested in the plant side of the chemistry. So interested in extracting things from plants, how those active ingredients might work, and what they do inside our bodies, and how they can help us feel amazing, and all of those sorts of things. So I went on to do my PhD in plant biology, and really, I guess, picked up a lot of skills that at the time I had no idea would be useful for something like this, but that have really helped to bring a really different perspective to creating non-alcoholic drinks, and to how we use those beautiful plant ingredients and the botanicals.
That's fascinating. And you left university and went into a corporate environment, so weren't using your biology superpowers?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. So I always had imagined that I would sort of stay in research and do something that, would solve world hunger or something crazy like that. But quite quickly got disillusioned with, I guess, the amount of time it would take to actually make an impact and make a change that people would be able to benefit from.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did a bit of a 180 and went into consulting, into technology consulting. And that's really where I got my first taste of the Aussie drinking culture. I was never really a big drinker before that, but I guess a lot of sort of the corporates at the time had this philosophy around drinking is a perk and part of the benefits of, I guess, being part of a company. So we have Friday afternoon drinks, we have, all these celebrations, and it always involves lots and lots of drinks. And of course, being young and pretty broke, free drinks was always fun. Yeah, got quite sort of involved in that whole side of things. And, when I looked around, I didn't really feel like I had a drinking problem. I didn't feel like I was drinking excessively at the time, or I didn't have like a rock bottom moment or anything. But when I actually had to sit down and, write down all the things I was consuming in a week, because IBS, I was like, okay, there's a fair few bottles of wine a week adding up here. That might not be so great for me. And so, yeah, it was really being in that environment that sort of started me off in feeling the pressure around drinking. And of course, being quite ambitious, I found it was a great way to socialize with the higher ups, and make those connections there that you might not get in the day to day as well. So, all in all, and I think, the culture might have changed a little now, but it was really a booze heavy environment. And that was really celebrated, I guess.
I was exactly the same, working in advertising. Very, very, very drink heavy environment and culture. And yeah, you're absolutely right in how you network, and you're taking clients out, or you're networking, trying to get to know the higher ups and navigate kind of your career and everything. Socializing is very important in those environments. I can relate to that. You started playing around with all of kind of botanicals and wines. Tell us a little bit about that process. Were you taking existing bottles of wines and de-alcoholizing them, or starting with grape juices? How? And this is all kind of in your kitchen, kind of experimenting, right?
Initially, I really focused on how we can extract flavors from plants without needing to use alcohol. So normally you'll sort of extract all of the beautiful smells and flavors from plants using alcohol. If you leave a tea bag of green tea in the cup for like 2 hours, it's all like soggy and muddy and not really great. That's what you get if you don't use alcohol to extract the flavors from plants, basically.
Right.
I really focused on looking at different methods that the alcohol industry uses, and trying to figure out how I could modify them to extract the beautiful top flavors and the delicate flavors without getting all that sort of muddy, not really nice, unpalatable stuff. And so a lot of the first experimentation was really based around that. And at that point, I hadn't actually settled on making making a wine per se. So I didn't actually experiment with de-alcoholizing wine until almost a year in market. So originally, I actually built our wine alternatives. So we wanted to create something that had a similar complexity and depth and mouthfeel and experience to wine without using any alcohol at all. So I basically built using all of these different methods and different flavors that I sort of figured out. I built a drink based on purely plant ingredients. So we still have them today. They're still some of our best sellers. So our first two were the Le Vion Rose and the Le Blanc. And
I got them here.
they, you might have them there, yeah.
I
They
think I got those. Yeah.
LeBlanc uses a beautiful forest berry, which it's actually a native eucalypt here in Australia. Yeah, you can see the eucalypt leaf on the can there. The eucalypt normally has like that mentholy taste and smell to it, and this does not. It smells like strawberry. It is incredible. It's the most incredible like plant I ever came across. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, I have to build this drink showcasing how incredible this native forest berry is. And so then sort of went through and how can we support the flavor of that top note and what can we do to make sure that there is a complexity and a depth so that your first sip is not the same as the last sip, and how do all the different ingredients interact with the receptors on your taste buds, and how does that contribute to the overall experience. So they were all the sorts of things I was thinking about in the first, I guess, 6 to 9 months, and trying to put together a product that mimicked the experience of wine without being a wine or using a de-alcoholized wine at that point.
Beautiful. I'm really fascinated with all these ingredients that honestly, like I've never even heard of. All native to Australia.
Yeah, exactly. So we use a native ingredient hero and then build sort of other botanical ingredients around that. You know, they're quite incredible. Like the Sansgia has a native rye berry. It's actually got the highest vitamin C content of any plant anywhere, right? But nobody knows that. So you know, they're really like modern day superfoods that people don't know about, and we really want to highlight and showcase how amazing those foods are. I think the health giving benefits of the ingredients that we use are definitely something that make it really unique, and not just the health giving benefits, but also the actual flavors. They're in a lot of ways they're somewhat familiar, but a little bit different. So in our new sparkling champagne alternative, we actually use native Kwandong, which is a native peach, and so it's got some of those familiar aspects of a peach, but it's a little bit more tart. It's got a little bit more earthiness to it. There's all these little nuances around it, and to be able to showcase that to people is really exciting. And you know, in lots of ways also contributes to the experience. We get customers who they bring a bottle somewhere special and they really enjoy actually talking about how it's different to, you know, something they haven't tried before. So we'll have people actually explaining what the native ingredients are to their friends as they are enjoying a glass, and I guess really contributing to the experience of um, sharing and connecting.
I love that. It's that your traditional wine tasting, you know, really talking about kind of the flavors and the notes and yeah,
Mm.
like you said, that experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, as we kind of went down we did the crowdfunding, and that was really to prove that people would put their money where their mouth is. Somebody would pay for some non-alcoholic drink of some sort. And so we built the first product and got that into bottles, and then really worked with the community we'd built during the crowdfunding campaign to bring out a second product, which was the La Vion Rose. It was really celebrating all that is wonderful about spring here in Australia. It's got the beautiful native rosella and pink rose petals. And so we found that, you know, that was even more loved than our first drink. And we just kind of, every time we bring something else out, it's bringing an extra element and answering things that people have been looking for in drinks, which in some ways challenging because you've got to kind of keep stepping it up. But in other ways, it's really nice to be able to have built a range that people can discover and explore and keep learning new things about all the time.
For sure. And I think it's just not about having something that mimics alcohol. It's about something that has complexity, that's
Mm,
sophisticated. We don't
yeah.
just want to drink a soft drink, want something that feels adult, that you can talk about, that you can have that experience with. You can, discuss the flavors, and how you're feeling when you're tasting it. And I think that's it with alcohol. You get that, and then you obviously can take it too far when you have a few more drinks to have. But I still want to have something adult and sophisticated even though I'm not drinking.
Yeah, and I think we keep coming back to the complexity, but I think that's the really like the most unique part about the approach we've taken. And whenever I'm making a new drink, I always sort of benchmark it. The first sip should taste different to the second sip and the third sip because the flavor's developing as your palate gets used to it, and you can pair it with the food because it has got those different notes and that sort of level of complexity to it. And I think that's what really sets it apart from other de-alcoholized wines, where often it's sort of you take a base wine, remove the alcohol, and then add back some grape juice concentrate or just straight sugar, and you don't have anything in there that replaces the complexity that was lost in the de-alcoholization process.
That is something that I really wanted to come on to with this, because so many de-alcoholized wines just aren't hitting the mark at the moment. And we see with the non-alcoholic spirits, the non-alcoholic gin alternatives, the non-alcoholic rum alternatives that all seem to be absolutely amazing. And quite a lot of them, you just don't know that you're drinking an alcohol-free alternative because they just mimic or taste so similar to the real thing. They're great. The beers as well, like alcohol-free beers, are unreal. And a lot of the time, again, you don't necessarily know that you're drinking something without alcohol. But wines just haven't quite um, hit the mark yet. Particularly the reds. I think the reds are struggling more. I think when you get into the sparkling alcohol-free wines, they're doing great.
Yeah,
I think because I
bubbles
think
help.
the bubbles help. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think, yes, you can add that sugar back in and they still stay sweet and they're kind of pleasant to drink. But when you kind of get into the red wines or the white wines or even kind of the rosés, they're still missing something. And that's what's so special about your products, is having that layer, those different kind of layers of complexity and flavor.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, our red, we brought out a red wine this time last year, and it was the most challenging product to date. For that reason, you remove the alcohol from red wine, and honestly, it tastes like off vinegar. Like it's awful. And so to be able to, I guess, build that up using the botanicals is really challenging.
Yeah.
So we ended up using native Tasmanian pepperberry, which it really enhanced, I guess, the plum and peppery and sort of dark chocolatey characters of the base wine that we already use. So it played really nicely with the base wine, but then added an extra element of that little bit of pepperiness and that little bit of earthiness to it as well. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think without that, it's really, really hard to make something that people really enjoy. But the feedback on that product over the last year has been incredible. So, we've got lots of sort of top restaurants that are now using that product to do their non-alcoholic wine pairings because they can, put it in a glass and feel proud to present that to a customer at a restaurant of that level,
Yeah.
which is, amazing feedback for us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it, isn't it? When you've got a sommelier, they want to be able to talk to you about the different notes and the flavors and
Mm.
the different tastes and everything that's coming through. And it's quite hard to do that with a de-alcoholized wine where you can kind of just taste grape juice and sugar and not much else. So That's honestly, that's awesome. So after the first series of drinks, you did decide to get into a de-alcoholized wine.
Yeah, that's right. So after that, we could see that our first drinks were really being used as a wine alternative in the wine occasion. And I guess I really wanted to start to explore how we would be able to bring that view of using botanicals to um, winemaking. So, not being a winemaker per se by training, really, I wasn't sort of confined to those traditional winemaking methods and processes, which can often be quite rigid to an extent. So, yeah, we really wanted to create something that was super fun, super enjoyable and celebratory. And that's where we came out with our Sansgria, which is honestly just a celebration in a bottle. It is so joyful to drink. And we now have it in a beautiful bottle with a cork as well, which just makes that experience even more fun. But yeah, we it took quite a while to develop the process for actually being able to create that and making sure that it's stable and seeing how it ages over time and how those flavors sort of develop and what the impact of the different steps in that process would be. So lots of experimenting and trial and error and I guess figuring out what works where and how we had to change different steps. But when we launched it, it really, like, the response was more than we could imagine. And to this day, the Sanskria is one of our top couple of sellers and consistently picks up awards at, even wine shows meant for alcoholic drinks. So it really sort of hit those notes, I guess, and really hit the mark in terms of being an alternative that, lots of people say they can't even tell that this one is non-alcoholic. And so, yeah, we
And
really built that.
and how do you serve it? So just a question. So if it's similar to regular sangria or yeah.
For all of our drinks, the philosophy we wanted to take was we want it to be as easy as possible. So one of the sort of shortfalls we found with the non-alcoholic spirits was you have to know how to mix it to have a really good drink. And oftentimes you're mixing it with a sugary soda or something, and that kind of dulls the whole experience. So for all of our range, we wanted to make something that you could just put in the fridge or take out of the cupboard and pour it, and it would be perfection as it is. But if you wanted to take it, up a step and do something a little fancier, it was a really special occasion, you can dress them up. So with our Sanskria, we often recommend to venues and restaurants, they serve it with a slice of orange or a little bit of mint or, jazz it up and make it look and feel really sexy and like a cocktail almost. And so all of the wines can play in that space as well, but they stand beautifully on their own, just poured in a wine glass as well.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Everything that you're saying, it's all always coming back to the experience, isn't it? The everything from having the cork in the bottle to how you can serve it, how you can elevate it if you want. Every single thing is coming back to your original kind of mission and what you set out to do, which was to kind of create this beautiful experience around drinking a non-alcoholic alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's to us, it's the most important thing. If you're not going to, I guess, replicate or have that similar experience, well, grab a soda water. Like that's kind of the thing, that's the other option. So you have to make it something that is more than what the options are in the soft drink world, I think. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really exciting part for us.
Yeah, it's awesome. I met Joelle recently from Drop Bear. brewing, and they create craft beers, alcohol-free craft beers, and they're very much the same. It was about the experience, being able to have, four different craft beers, to try them, be able to talk about the flavor and have those same discussions and those same moments that you might over a regular craft beer. And I think that's what's going to kind of make this category a success, is really kind of educating people on the experience, not just the product. Because I think there's still so much kind of, when you talk to people about giving up alcohol or having an alcohol-free alternative, I often get met with, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
What, and it's really frustrating for me, actually, because the point is I still want to be included. I want to, I still want to come on the night out. I still want to have a nice glass of something sophisticated with my meal. I still want to have cocktails with my friends. I just
Yeah.
don't want the negative effects of the alcohol.
100%.
Yeah, and so it's I think it's just so important and just so amazing that this is kind of your mission, and this is what you're bringing to the table. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, and I guess the really nice thing about the way that we've sort of built the business is that it is something that we build with our customers. So many of our customers, we have a big online presence. So many of our customers have been with us since the early crowdfunding days, and we're able to communicate directly with them, and really build a real sense of like community and like-mindedness around not drinking and non-alcoholic, and enable them to then share their stories and tell stories about this, so that when they are at an event and people are like, oh, what's the point? They're like, well, look, like, here's a bottle of Sansgia, but did you know that this has native rye berry in it and that has the most vitamin C, or like, here's this amazing bottle and I bet you won't tell that it's not alcoholic. Like, just empowering people, really. That's a really, like, the reason we keep doing this, right? Like, it's not an easy business. If somebody said, why do you do it? We do it for our customers. It's been really hard. It's a really challenging industry. It's a really challenging thing to start in an area where there's almost no consumer awareness of what a non-alcoholic option is or can be. And so, I guess I think that's why at the start I said lucky we were naive, because if we would have known, how challenging it is, and how, I guess, locked up as an industry it is, how hard it is to get products on a menu or on a supermarket shelf or on a bottle shop's shelf, it's really tough. So being able to connect with our customers in that way really sort of makes everything, all the hard work, all the blood, sweat and tears, really worth it for us, and keeps us going, propelling towards that mission and making change.
There's going to be a tipping point as well, and it will come, and I think it's going to come sooner than a lot of people realize. I don't know a single person who is trying to drink more. Everybody's trying to drink a little bit less. We're becoming more and more aware of the negative health problems that alcohol can cause and is responsible to. I think we're all waking up as well to, big alcohol and how they maybe have influenced politics and influenced, what information comes out about the dangers of alcohol. And I do think this is going to be quite a controversial statement, but I think alcohol will be the next generation smoking. I think my kids will grow up looking at people who drink, thinking, why did people ever do that? Just like, we might look at smokers, for example. So, and I'm sure there'll be some other kind of new high that the kids get on, that we've got to look forward to as parents. But I do think that it's people are kind of trying to drink less, and even if once a week they decided to choose a non-alcoholic alternative, and I think it'll be a snowball effect as soon as they do and realize how great they are and how great they feel afterwards. just like it was with me. I stopped drinking for 6 months because I was marathon training, and I found all these amazing alcohol-free alternatives, and I haven't looked back because I don't need it anymore. It bridged that gap for me and just allowed me to still, you know, hang out with my friends, feel included, still almost acted as a placebo at times, uh, for me to get up on the dance floor, and it was enough. And
Mm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and what you're saying, and being a little bit controversial. I think it's something that Big Alc is really concerned about. We experienced that firsthand right at the beginning. We started to get a bit of traction and make a bit of noise, and got a cease and desist from a Big Alc. So I found that really interesting, and something that um, kind of showed that I think a lot of them are now bringing out their own non-alc ranges and really filling out um, that demand that they're starting to see. And so it's a really interesting, perhaps a little precarious thing, for Big Alc. And I know there's always a lot of discussion about, particularly when you see the multinationals bringing out a new zero alc brand, what the motivation is behind that, and whether it is, we've got brands like us who are we're on a mission to really make a change, and we only do non-alc because that is what we are so passionate about, versus someone jumping on it to make a buck. So it's a really interesting dichotomy that we're seeing, and I guess really interesting to delve into the consumer psyche behind that.
yeah, for sure. And I think with when I speak to kind of a lot of the more beer brands, they're really struggling to get their product in store, struggling to get their product in bars, because you've got the likes of Heineken and other brands giving away their non-alcoholic beer for free. So if you're buying Heineken on tap, you can have the non-alcoholic stuff for free, and that's really frustrating, because then the bars don't want to have to pay for the non-alcoholic beer when they can get 100% markup on whatever they're
Absolutely.
getting free from the big beer companies. So there's also lots of challenges there that I think we're seeing.
Honestly, I think it does lead us down a little bit of a dangerous path, because if there's no real incentive to do better and push the boundaries more, in particular in the wine space, right? Like, there are a lot of wine options out there that are not good. That if a consumer tries that for the first time, they go, "Oh, okay, no, non-alcoholic wine isn't for me." And so
Yeah,
I think we really have to keep pushing and fighting and demanding better, so that we can get to a place where non-alc is on the same pedestal as an alcohol. Like, it's
yeah,
not a lesser or the poor cousin of a beautiful glass of Shiraz. It's something just as special and enjoyable. So, yeah, I guess there's really a push needed from these wonderful craft brands who are innovating and trying to make a really genuine consumer led change, across the board. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, we face really similar challenges. We have retailers who say, look, we're only going to range the big alcohol brands because people know those brands. And so if they're going to make a change, they normally drink X brand. They're now going to pick up X brand, but the no alc version. So yeah, it is. It's really challenging, and quite disappointing to see, I guess, the lack of like vision and innovation, that some big players in the industry kind of have around buying and ranging and stocking and putting on their menus. So yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle.
yeah. They're ticking a box. They're not seeing it as, you have a choice on what to drink tonight. You could choose an alcohol, you could choose non-alcoholic, but the quality's there. Like, people would
Mhm.
like to choose an Altina because I like the taste of it. It's sophisticated. It's complex. It's beautiful. I'm choosing it because it tastes great, not just
Mm.
because it's a non-alcoholic version.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of kind of distributors or anyone really needs to kind of open their mind up a little bit to the fact that, just having a brand name non-alcoholic version, it's not enough.
Mm,
It's actually, there are some products that are a much higher quality that you would choose instead of a wine, not as an alternative to a wine.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
where we've got a lot of work to do, but it's going in the right direction. I'm
okay.
optimistic.
It is. And so what are your plans coming up for Altina?
Yeah, so we're really focused on making sure that we're as accessible as possible here at home in Australia first, and really being able to get people to try it. So, really sampling lots of, getting people to request it, all of that sort of stuff to build that really great base here at home in Australia. And then we've got big plans for international expansion. So, over in Singapore, you were able to pick up some Altina, and we want to continue to do that and bring this beautiful taste of Australia and the Australian philosophy that we've developed behind the brand to other countries and help people to experience that, and make that a really unique and interesting point of difference for our products versus what's available in those markets. So we're really excited about that, and what the future holds there.
That's awesome. And do you have a space in Australia? So if anybody was down your neck of the woods, we could come and see you and have a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually working on a little cellar door at the moment. We're putting all of the finishing touches here in Canberra. So if anyone's local to Canberra, I'm sure you've probably already met us because you guys are awesome in Canberra. But yeah, we're absolutely wanting to make sure that people can come and sample the ranges and really connect with us one on one where we produce. But we're also super available across bottle shops, but online as well. And I'm the one normally who answers all of the emails and all of your chats. So I love to connect with our customers and really get your views and feedback and things. So yeah, we're very open in that respect. So treat us as a virtual cellar door online anytime at all.
Oh, this is awesome. I will definitely come down and see you guys at some point.
Yes.
Because I'd love to learn even more and yeah, come and see because where all the magic happens and come and taste some more product because yeah, it's all absolutely beautiful and something that I always serve to my guests, my friends and family whenever we're hosting, and everyone is always pleasantly surprised. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. I'll make sure that I kind of link to you, your website, all of your socials and everything down below. So if anybody else wants to check you out and have a look and order, most importantly, yeah, everything will be kind of linked to down below.
Yeah, perfect. And we always look forward to connecting with more people.
Awesome, thank you. And before I go, so anyone that you recommend me having a chat to, so anyone in the industry that you're really friendly with, that you think would be interesting to come on the podcast and have a chat, tell me about their story and maybe their products.
Someone who comes to mind is Jose from Hopper. So he's really sort of introduced the first hop water here in Australia, and is really playing in the functional space, but as a non-alcoholic alternative. So he's got a really cool story and lots of insights. So yeah, happy to pass on your details to him and see if you can tee up a chat.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Please. Thank you so much. For anyone who's still listening at this point, so just tell us quickly about how you came up with Altina.
So obviously my name's Christina, and Alan, my co-founder and partner in life, is Alan. So we sort of put those together, but originally we were really looking for something that said like an alternative and something that was a little different. So yeah, the Altina really did it for us, but it took us a long time to get there. But it's a lovely little thing for people to discover, after they've tried the drinks and maybe they've made a couple of orders, and then, suddenly they click that it's us, and those are our stories that inspired the drinks. So I really love it when people sort of like their eyes light up. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool."
I love it. So good. It's so cute, and but just it's great. It's just a great name. I think it's lovely, and I think your products are just wonderful. And I am in awe of your story and just tenacity for getting there and creativity with it, because it's very, very unique, and it's just wonderful. And above everything, your mission, everything that you're doing with your mission is just exactly where my head's at, and I think a lot of other people as well. Like, we can't be alone in this.
No, we definitely aren't alone in this. Trust me. There are so many people. I get so many messages like every single day, with people telling similar stories and being in a similar place. So yeah.
Right. Thank you again, Christina. It was so lovely to speak to you, and I really hope to chat again to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.